So every week when we have a Dharma talk, we have we sit here in the context of our world. We don't know what our world is, because when I'm talking now about the bigger world, because really the world we hear about is really the world of the news. And of course, the news media cannot report everything that's happening in the world, good and bad. So it's a tiny, tiny little selection that get focused on and then get reported. So our image of what's going on in the world is often distorted because of that, and yet this is the world we live in. So getting the news is our common way of creating an image in our minds of the world. And, we are at a time where, violence seems to be up, as it always, unfortunately, is in the world. The violence of shooters, people killing people, innocent people, meaning people that they don't have any personal, in many cases, reason to do violence other than what's going on within themselves. We have war going on, and we have, throughout the world. And we have this Memorial Day, which is, as you know, a day of honoring soldiers, men and women who have given their lives in war for our country. And the focus, again, it's all kind of lopsided in the sense it's never balanced. It's just like the news. So on Memorial Day, we focus on what? Courage, bravery, sacrifice. All very noble qualities of human beings, and certainly selflessness, and a lot of that is what is often motivating people who become soldiers, people who go to war, people who are willing to give up their lives. But on the other hand, there is another side of war. The violence of war, the destruction of war, the great harm it does physically and psychologically to participants in the war and civilians in the war, and the great pain of social dislocation that occurs. So it's very important that when we have Memorial Days, we touch both sides. We give balance. So on the one hand, there is this heroic self-sacrifice, but on the other hand, there's great pain and suffering that's involved in war. And if we only touch the heroic side, but we don't touch the pain side, there is no way forward out of this morass. It's very interesting that over time, some of the most meaningful books, and then some of them turn into movies that really touch the deep suffering of war, are accounts by soldiers. Either soldiers just, talking about their real life experiences, but also soldiers that become authors and write about it. It's a way that we can experience and learn about this other side. So, looking at the world, and I think when people look in the world, we often look at the world with great confusion, or how can this be, or what's going on. So what I want to talk about today is something I haven't given a talk about in a while, but I think it's really a very interesting way for us to look at life and look at what's the way the world's unfolding. And this is what's in Buddhism called the 6 realms. Are people familiar with the 6 realms? People have probably been around here. Who is not familiar with this Buddhist teaching on the 6 realms? Oh, wonderful. So But I think, again, this is very, very important because it gives us another perspective, you see. Because traditionally, our perspective as modern peoples is when we look at situations, we look at the kind of more materialistic causes of what's going on. So we look at historical causes, and we look at economic causes, and we looked at social causes. And so we put that whole matrix together, in other words, for us to understand kind of the unfolding of these societal movements, positive and negative. And certainly, like all material things, everything has a cause, everything has an effect. All causes have effects. So we can certainly understand how things are unfolding from that kind of materialistic way of understanding the unfolding of human history. But what that leaves out, which is very essential, is that the participants in these historical events, historical movements, social movements, economics, are individuals. And each of those individuals have a mind. And oftentimes, if we aren't willing to give credence to the minds of human beings and just look at how it's manifesting in the world of actions, we really don't get at a whole significant realm of what's causing the problem. If we think the problem is just social or economic or political, then our solutions will always be what? In the social, economic, political realm, you see. But if we understand that that is often a manifestation of human beings and their minds and their hearts, then we understand that to change things, we really need to understand the minds of human beings. Right? And so this formulation of the 6 realms, I think, gives us a very different way of looking at what's going on in the world. So that's what I want to talk to you about, and maybe we can have a discussion. So these 6 realms really came into Buddhism because Buddhism developed in India, and this was part of the cosmology of India, right? Indian society was a society where myth and mythological, that's what we call it. To them it was all very real, but sort of that mythological, cosmological view of reality, multiple worlds, multiple lifetimes, endless realms, seen and unseen. The unseen world is probably more alive than the seen world. That was their world. So for them, these 6 realms were actually realms, geographic realms, that existed in their own time and space, you see. But over time, while that existed in Buddhism, it also began to have a more psychological also meaning to it. And especially to me, as an American, our mind is not a mind in which mythology and multiple realms and multiple ways of existence and a whole universes of unseen forces is not real to us. We would probably call that people who are hallucinating or having psychotic experiences. So we are much more grounded in psychology, right, of mind. And so for me, my encounter with these teachings on the 6 realms, understanding it from a psychological point of view, it was very significant and meaningful. And I think it helped me understand human beings much more than my traditional view. So what are these 6 realms, right? So there are 6 realms in which beings, deluded beings, we might say, because there are also 4 enlightened realms. So there are 6 sort of these deluded realms that beings of all types are born into. Okay? And there are 3 upper and there are 3 lower. Working down, and then I'll talk about them. At the top of the upper realm are the devas, those who have a sort of a god or goddess-like existence. Under them are the titans, the demigods. They haven't made it to full godhead yet. And under that are the human beings. Okay, so we're at the bottom of the upper realms. And then in the lower realms below human beings, there is the animal realm, there is the hungry ghost realm, and there is the hell realms. All right? So again, let me start at the bottom, okay? And I'll talk about it in a psychological way. So, in hell is a place of great suffering, right? If anybody has read Dante and remember those medieval descriptions of hell, right? Hell is a place of endless suffering, right? Anguish, where people not only suffer greatly, but they are burning up with it. It is hot, and actually there are hot hells and cold hells. So for some people they're frozen, some people they're just endlessly hot. They're on fire, right? What are they on fire with? They're suffering, which often in the hell realm is the suffering of anger. Anger, anger, anger. And anybody know suffering of anger? It is hot. It is volatile. It burns. Right? Cold hells they're interesting. They're the opposite. They're like complete disinterest, complete detachment. Don't feel anything. Right? And yet one can often act. That's a suffering. Yeah, so beings in hell endlessly suffer. Beings in hell are so consumed by their suffering that they don't see anything other than their suffering. And not only, if you see representations of hell, not only are the beings in it are suffering, but they're also being tortured by other suffering beings. So when we think about the young man who just killed all those children, I'd say if we opened up his mind, opened up his heart, he was in hell. He was in hell. And he was consumed with anger and resentment and pain. And I think if we could do this with many of these people that we go, how can somebody do that? We would say, because they're in hell. Their mind, they look like us. They have eyes, they have ears. You see, this is the mind. They're in hell. And we can talk about how we deal with this. So this is so there are everywhere in this world people whose minds are in hell. And just stop a second. Close your eyes. Has anybody, ask yourself, have I ever touched that hell within myself? When I'm totally consumed with my anger, rage, hurt, and I can't see out of it. There's nothing outside of it. For some, it might have been, brief little episodes in life. For some, it may have been something that's much more continuous within us. Also ask yourself, in my life, have I encountered people like this, who are in this kind of hell? Lost in their own hurt and anger and rage, suffering deeply, not seeing a way out, inflicting that suffering on others, creating a hell realm. So when we reflect in this way, we realize, oh yeah, geographically, are there not places in this world right now where beings are in hell? Where their suffering seems to be unremitting. So this is known. Yeah, the next realm is what's called the hungry ghost realm, the realm of the pretas. Again, a very realm I think we can understand. So this is the realm of unremitting, never satisfied desire. This is the realm that we might call the realm of, very common in our world, the realm of addiction. Right? The addict endlessly, needy, wanting. Pretas, hungry ghosts, they are represented geographically, pictorially, as they're like these beings. They have big mouths, big mouths. They have big bellies, right? And they have throats that are just no bigger than a pin. Right? Endless desire, endless need, endless want. And yet, no matter what they do, no matter how much food or whatever their substance is that they stuff into their mouth, the satisfaction that comes when your belly is full is never theirs, you see, because it doesn't get down. And again, I think, addiction is just a very obvious metaphor for this state. But it's a state, I think, for many people. It's a state of endless neediness. And no matter how much that need is satisfied, it never is fully satisfied. And the next day we need again, and we need again. And whether this is, for personal things or relationship things or things or stuff or money or, or pleasure, it's this endless state of craving, of wanting, right? But it's also coming from this deep place, I think, of kind of emptiness. And no matter how much we try to stuff in there, of all the kinds of things we do, that underlying feeling of not feeling fulfilled is never found. Okay, so just take a moment, close your eyes and ask yourself, do I know this realm? In my life, presently, do I know this realm? Endlessly seeking something to fill me up, to make me happy. And yet, no matter how much I consume, it never satisfies me. See, the preta gets a lot of pleasure in the chewing. Gets pleasure in the chewing, in the mouth. But where the hunger is coming from never gets filled up, never gets satisfied, because it's got that little tiny throat. Only little, never gets down there. Satisfaction is small. So again, ask yourself, do I know this mind state, big or small, in my life? And do I know others who are caught up in this spiral? The poor addict, one of the signs of addiction is craving. Endless craving. And yet, no matter how much of their drug of choice they take, it only fulfills it for a very short time. And then they crave again. Crave. Need. Must have. It's a spiral of addiction. But we have to ask ourselves, at a deeper level, is this not at the extreme of that, but is this not something that's fairly, that I can understand? We'll just stop there for now. When you introspect yourself, do you know that place within yourself of needing, of lack, maybe it's another word, deficiency, feeling I lack something, I need something. If only I could get this, if only I could get that, then I'll feel full. So all the Preta wants is that feeling of a full belly, right? Finishes the meal and it's got a full belly. But it can never stop because so little food yet actually gets into that place. It's always hungry. Do we know that place? Okay. So above the hungry ghosts are the animals. And again, please understand, I know there are a lot of animal lovers here, and I know research that shows, certain animals do have a certain level of intelligence, so this is not about any of that. This is a certain characterization of the animalistic mind. Okay? So, the life of an animal is very simple, right? Their primary thing is what? Eat. Right? Gather food. And when they're done gathering food, if anybody has a pet, what do your pets do after they've eaten usually? What? Sleep. They rest. Right? They also, so their life is very simple. Their needs are very simple. Food, shelter, right? Safety. Right? So they're always very watchful. Depending on where they are in the animal realm, there are many animals that are always afraid. Right? If you ever watch small animals, they're always afraid. Birds, they come down, but they're always twittering around, ready to jump off in a second. A lot of small animals, when they see you, they run, right? Because they live in fear. They're predators. There's always somebody circling. Right? So there's a lot of fear. Unless you're at the top, at the very top of the hierarchy, then maybe you can not be afraid. But for most animals, there's a lot of fear. Their life is very simple, basic food, sex, shelter, safety. Right? And so that's the characteristic of their life. But what they're lacking is self-awareness. Very important. They have no self-awareness. They have no insight. They're not capable of looking at their situation with any kind of insight or understanding and thinking, could I do this differently? Is there another way to live? Is this really, animals just do what, they just do it, right? Very simple, very basic, very primitive. Right? An animal existence. We even say in our society, we say, well, that person's acting just like an animal, right? When we say that, what do we mean? Very basic. They're just always acting on their very basic needs. They really don't, they don't have any bigger picture. They're not even interested in any bigger picture, right? About life, about the meaning of life, the purpose of life, what's going on, right? Their world is very tiny. They're animals. We don't expect too much of our animals, right? And they don't expect that much of us, do they? As long as we kind of feed them and, do those basic things, they're content, right? Take me for a walk, thank you. I'll go back to sleep. Feed me, even better. Now life is getting excited, but when they're done, they go back to sleep. It's a very, very simple life. Very easily satisfied. So again, close your eyes. Do I know that realm within myself? Right? Not interested in any insight. Not interested in any understanding. Not interested. Most animals we would not say are altruistic. They're not thinking about the benefit of all. Right? They're just taking care of their own very basic needs. Do I know that realm within myself? To me, that's kind of like, drugs, sex, and rock and roll, sort of a very common modality for people. That's what all life's about, right? Just meet my needs, give me pleasure. Right? I'm good. No need to meditate, no need to be mindful, no need to talk about altruism or compassion or love or insight or patience. Right? Let's get a six-pack and enjoy ourselves. So again, within your own experience, the way you experience others, do you know people who are sort of living? Again, this is not judgment. This is just kind of unpacking things and going, oh, now I get them. That's the world. That's their world. They don't see outside their world. Hungry ghosts don't see outside their world. Hell beings don't see outside their world. That's why this idea of realm is very, interesting. So, we're skipping human realm. You get the three lower realms, and the human realm will go above the human realm. Now we're, moving up the chain. Above the humans are the demigods, the titans, right? They're strong beings, right? Now, what is the characteristic of this realm? Power. They want power. What is the underlying psychological state? Jealousy, envy. So therefore, they're always in what? Competition. They love competition. They love the battle. They love winning. Right? So it's a very kind of aggressive realm. It's not like the hell realms. right? But that's what they live for. They live for the fight. They live for the competition. They don't, it's every man and woman for himself. It's a dog-eat-dog world, right? And so the Titans, again, they live for power. They live for advance. I mean, they're also a little bit like hungry ghosts because they're never satisfied, because no matter how much money they get or how much power they get or how much they win, they can always what? Win more, have more. There's always somebody who's got, I'm a billionaire, but there are people who have more billion, I want to get up there. I want to climb the ladder. I'm president of a corporation, maybe become president of another corporation, a bigger one, more power. They're kind of paranoid too, you see, because as they're going up, fighting their way up to the top, they're also looking for what? Competition or anybody, so they're always kind of paranoid. They're jealous, they're envious. They're very, in a paranoid sense, they always need to destroy people who don't, right? See them like they want to be seen. A lot of jealousy. Yeah, so, stop a moment. Do you recognize that piece in yourself? Maybe, maybe not. As we move up the chain, in the cosmology of this, in the lower realms, there are many more beings. As we begin to move up, there are less beings, right? Yeah, so, but do you know that side in yourself, even in a little way? This wanting power over someone else, wanting to rise up even if you have to step on somebody. Jealousy, envy of others. So this is the psychology of the Titan realm. Yeah, so again, do you know that place in yourself, or do you know that in others? We certainly see it in many of our political leaders, our corporate leaders, our military leaders. They're very, this is what they live for. They live for the battle. They live for the fight. They live to win. One more above, then we'll come back to, where we are. This is the godlike realm. These are the deva realms. Deva realm is all about what? Pleasure, comfort, ease, right? That's all that life's about. Beautiful things, beautiful smells, beautiful clothes, beautiful surroundings, beautiful vacation places, beautiful friends, right? It's a world in which everything is focused on externals, how things look, how I look, how you look, how my home looks, you see, how my friends look, you know what I mean? It's a totally, it's a total externalized, superficial world where it's all, pleasure and comfort. Devas, if there's one thing they can't stand, you know what that is? Discomfort. Not allowed. So they spend their whole life creating these bubbles of pleasure and comfort. Everything is controlled. No suffering, no ugliness, no poverty, no issues. Or if they are, they're way out there. Like maybe I'll go volunteer once a week at a soup kitchen. You know what I mean? But it's like over there. I never really let it enter my life, you see. So and so these are really interesting enough. See, so you have these, in this world of delusion, the demigods and the gods, they're the rulers. You see what I'm saying? That's what everybody wants to be, right? Everybody wants to be what? Young people, they want to be what? What? They want to be rich. They want to be famous. They want what? What? Yeah, and who do they follow all the time? Celebrities, right? Models, celebrities. Right? If you think about, who the people that we look to, that we're interested in, are these people. We're not interested in ordinary people like ourselves. Right? We want to know about the celebrities. Right? Right? We want to see what they're up to, what their homes look like, what their, where they go on vacation. Right? Can you see? So achieving deva realms, or rising up and having power and influence and fame, and this is you can see in these upper level realms, these are the people who are who are the ideals. Okay, but as we said, are these realms outside of suffering? No. The Titans suffer. They're never at ease, right? They never have enough. There's always somebody who could take it away, right? There's always somebody who's trying to bring them down, and that drives them nuts, right? So they're never at ease, right? Because they live in this world of competition, struggle, fight. And celebrities have one big problem. What is that? The devas have one big problem. Everything's impermanent. Right? Their beautiful bodies and their beautiful things don't last. You know what really freaks out devas? Aging. Well, that really bothers them. They don't like to see their faces aging. They do not like disease and sickness. And they definitely don't like dying, because who wants to leave all this? Their very beautiful life. So impermanence really scares them. So they don't deal with it. Right? They create these bubbles of permanence. In the same way the demigods create this bubble of endless achieving. Right? Okay, so we all know these realms? So this is the human realm. Now, the human realm is a very interesting realm. It is, so as opposed with the way it's typically presented, that these other five realms are like totalities, right? Like people in hell, hellish mind state. People who are hungry ghosts, endless craving, endless wanting, like the addict. People in the animal realm, they just have this kind of general dumbness, lack of insight, any kind of, of that. Very simple, basic, primitive life. Demigods are just consumed with the battle and the fight, and the celebrities are just consumed with ease and comfort, and. So, now the human realm is a mix, you see. So we participate in all the other five. So it's very interesting. So you do find some people who are totally at the extremes, but that's why I think for each of us, we can look at our life, look at our mind and go, oh, I know that mind state. We might go through those mind states, in a day, right? There are some times when our life is just, I just want to be comfortable. I just want ease. I just don't want any discomfort at all in my life. I don't want any pain. I don't want any discomfort. I don't want anybody causing me discomfort, And then we might get angry, and we may get enraged, and then we may get wanting and needing. And then we might just want the simple pleasures in life, food, sex, You understand what I'm saying? And then, so we human beings, we move through these. And some have more of one, some have more of the other. So it's yeah. As well as, again, it's all these realms. They're just endless desire. We just wanting, needing. So the human realm is a mixture. It's like all these other five in various, according to our own causes and conditions, the way we've grown, developed. we have more of one than the other. Some are very predominant, others are very minor. Some of us, we have equal doses of all of them. Some of us can look over our life and see, oh, at one point in my life I was really in this realm. Now I'm really more in that realm, or one can see throughout the day. But from a Buddhist point of view, of these 6 realms, the only realm that you want to live in is the human realm. Why is that? Because in all the other 5 realms, there's no self-awareness, right? They never stop and look at themselves, because wherever they're in, whether it's the pleasure, whether it's the jealousy and the competition and the envy, whether it's the deep suffering and anger, whether it's the dumbness, whether it's the endless needing, it is all consuming. They can't see out of it. They have no insight. And we've all been there, right? Lost in whichever realm where we're stuck in, at a time in our life or in the hour. We all know what that's like when we're in it. So, human beings, to be born a human being, we have this one thing that sets us above all the other realms. Because, obviously, we don't want to go into the lower realms, and we would like to go in the upper realms, but we have this wonderful capacity that these other realms don't have, which is our capacity to be self-aware. We can see ourselves, right? We can step out. I can step out of Fred, and I can self-observe, right? I can see what I'm up to. I can see what I'm feeling. I can see what I'm thinking. I can see what I'm doing, right? I am self-aware, right? As well as I have another great gift. I have intelligence that I can put in the service of self-awareness, right? I can look at my life, as many of us have here, and go, it's not working. It's not working. Right? See, the hungry ghosts can't do that. They just endless crave, need, right? But we can look at that part of ourselves that's a hungry ghost and go, that's suffering. We can look and go, that's no way to happiness. If I have a hole in me, that's no way to fill it up, because it never works, right? If I look and I see, so much of my life I've been consumed with anger or rage, I can step back from that and see that. And I can assess, that's not the way I want to live. That's not the way I want to relate to others. That's not the way I want to be. Right? You see? If we can look at our life and go, yeah, just living a life of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, that doesn't give any meaning or fulfillment. It gets old very quickly. And there's a downside of that. What am I doing here? In the same way with the upper realms, we see the emptiness, the utter unsatisfactoriness of that life. Because the demigods have to every day do battle. The devas every day have to caretake their pleasure worlds, right? Always making sure that they are a celebrity, that they're known, that they're famous, that I'm being noticed, right? So this capacity that the human, which means us, we have this ability to be self-aware, this ability to self-assess, the ability to look at the world and think about it. We have logic, we have the capacity of analyzing. The human mind has wonderful capacities which set it off from these other 5 realms, you see. We have to ask ourselves now, do I use these capacities of my mind? to really change and transform. You know, if I really see, yeah, deeply down, I want to be happy. But I'm not going about it in the right way because the things I'm doing in my life are not creating happiness for me. I want to be a more open, loving person. But the way I operate in the world, you know, doesn't really facilitate that. You know, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be anxious and scared all the time. I don't want to. You see, you know, we have this capacity to not only be self-aware and understand, but we have the capacity to also even conceive that there's another way to live. Cardinals and blackbirds can't do that. Right? They just endlessly live the way they live. Our dogs and cats will endlessly be the way they are. Right? They can't have conversations with each other about, you know, is this really the way I want to live? You know, locked up in a house all day, and then when I'm taken out twice a day on a chain, and basically, you know, told where I need to go, and they keep feeding me this junk every day, the same damn food every day. And they expect me to wag my tail and be happy, you know what I mean? Right? Dogs don't think this way, do they? There must be a better life. No. No. But we do, you see. This is our great gift, you see. So from a Buddhist point of view, to be born a human being is the best life we can get. This is it, you see. All of us have it. It's called the precious human birth. It's not precious because we're human, because we can be a human / hungry ghost, and we can be a human / hellish being, and we can be a human / animal, or a human / titan, or a human / celebrity. You see what I'm saying? Deva. But we have a capacity as a human being, because of these attributes that I just said of our mind, we have an opportunity to chart a different way. So here's this human birth with these capacities that all of us have. Many lie dormant, but can all be developed. And then we have, in our fortune, we have enlightened beings, awakened people, appear in our world, right, who affirm to us that there is another way to live, that this human birth and all our attributes of heart and mind can be used and utilized to create wholesomeness and goodness and happiness, that we can end suffering. We can end the suffering of other beings too. Right? So when we really fully enter this awareness of this special opportunity that we have been given as human beings, and we are fortunate enough to combine that with coming into encounter with a path that shows that there's another way to live, another way to be. Right? This is we might say good fortune, great fortune. And all of a sudden, we realize that life can be more than about suffering, more about endlessly wanting and needing, right? More about competing over, or more about just endlessly seeking pleasure and comfort, you know, none of which is really fundamentally a meaningful life. But I can chart for myself a meaningful life. This is what Dharma is, you know, the way of a way of awakening, a way of truth. And when I say Dharma, I don't mean like only the Buddha Dharma. The Buddha Dharma is a good Dharma, but there are hopefully other Dharmas in this world that people can follow, that show us another way to live, another way to be, another way to relate to each other. This is why it's so precious. And this is why, especially in this world where these other 5 realms are so dominant, right, in the minds of human beings, to bring forward a Dharma as another path in life that's open to everyone is so important. I mean, especially as this world gets darker and darker in a certain way, and human beings, their minds get heavier and heavier. It's very important that this Dharma be brought into the world to help people, because most beings don't see another way. Right? They don't see a way out. They're lost in whatever their dominant mind state is, whatever dominant realm they're in. That's where they're lost. They don't see out of it. So anyhow, this is why it is very wonderful for each of us to have an encounter with a Dharma, a path that shows us how to end suffering and create happiness and meaning. We are very fortunate. Whatever that means to any of us, we are very fortunate. But we have to be careful not to waste our opportunity. Because most of us, we don't know, as you all know. These other 5 realms are still in our mind. And it's very easy for us to... what's it easy for us to do? It's easy for us to knock our microphone off. You see? Without even trying, we slip into these mind states. Yeah, so we have to be very careful and very deliberate and conscious if we want to take advantage. Because again, even though we may have encountered Dharma, and even though we know these, we've read things or heard things and listened to things and know, oh, there is a better way to live, a better way to be, a better way to think, a better way to relate. And yet, we have these other five mind states within us, right? So we have to be very careful and deliberate about how we go about living this life and taking advantage if new doors have opened to us. Doors open, we don't always walk through. There's something about, being stuck. But that's another whole Dharma talk. I'd like to stop now and just open it up. I mean, any questions or reflections based on what's been shared this morning. Again, very ancient text, but I think very modern. And I think it helps us understand the inside of what's going on. So whether you go, so when you see a shooter like that, a young man, or there are lots of them, you go, they're in hell. They're in hell. They're just consumed by their anger, consumed by their rage, they can't see out of it. That's how they can harm another human being with such indifference. Because they don't even see they're human beings, they're just lost. Or we see people endlessly consuming. Endlessly. Their closets are full, and yet they're shopping. Their pantries are full, and yet they're shopping. Their home has everything it needs, and yet they're shopping. Right? I mean, it's endless. Endless. Right. So good. So any questions or any comments? Here in the hall? And for those online, raise your hand. And Brian or Raylene, who's ever up there, will call on them. But for Jenica, is that right?
Or if they can just actually type in their message.
Or they can type in their message. Okay.
I was just wondering, Fred, if you could elaborate a little bit more on the cold hell. That very much piqued my interest, because you talked more about the warm hell, and that was more relatable, but I'm curious about that as well.
Yeah, so the cold hells are interesting, and again, psychologically. But, to me, like cold is like frozen. But it's not hot. It's like, we talk about a kind of anger that's icy. It's not hot. It's like they just look. It's a look, it's a stare, it's cold, there's nothing there at all, but it's anger, right? Frozen. So it's anger, but it's cold, it's not hot. Sort of like, could be like passive aggression. It's not aggressive, but it's anger, but it's cold, it holds back, it's frozen. Can't act. But we can, and some of us hold our anger in that icy way, that frozen way. So we let people know we're angry at them, not by aggressing against them, but by being cold, by withdrawing. When heat expands, right? Cold contracts. So some people, when they're very angry, they expand. Other people contract into themselves, pull back, frozen. Don't come near me. What? The Grinch? Oh. Are you sure? Well, anyhow, let's not get into the what kind of helping the Grinch was. Does that explain?
Yeah, like kind of like somebody who's kind of stuck inside themselves.
But it's a hell realm, so it's not. It's sort of like, again, if you think about, it's a cold hell, But it doesn't. The hot hells, it acts out. It's hot. You know what I mean? Cold hell. Cold. The icy stare just looks hatred. Doesn't say anything. They hate you. They withdraw. Right? Don't talk to me. Right? Don't want nothing to it. Frozen. We're frozen in it. That state? Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Brian?
We do have, can you hear me? Yes.
I can hear you.
We do have a message from Delisa. She says, are you saying the shooter is justified in his action due to his mind state? Just wondering the purpose of mentioning this aside from it being current.
Yeah, so this is very important to understand. Understanding does not mean passivity. This is very important. People hear these kinds of things, you mean if we understand the mind state of this person, then we have to what? What do we have to do? Does that mean we don't try to stop them from what they're doing? Right? If you're a policeman, do you not do everything you can to stop them? Of course you do. But to understand, this is why there's no understanding. We see all these people like cartoon characters. The news sees them as cartoon characters. And what this does, it takes off the covering and we see into the mind to where this person is coming from. What is the mind of these titans, these rulers, these autocrats, these ones who want more and more power and do everything they can to destroy the opposition. Right? What are they up to? Well, if you go into their mind and go, this is the mind of a titan, yeah. If they live in a world where it's all about them, and they want more power, right? They're, very paranoid, loyalty, disloyalty, big, So we understand the mind state. That's very important. When you understand, when I talked about the shooter, we understand it wasn't like he was evil. He was created. His life created him. His life created somebody who as time went on, endured more and more hurts, more and more rage. Right? We have to understand that. Or else we'll just continue to do what we do, which is we don't change anything. These people are still being created, right? So understanding allows us, we want to understand the mind and the causation of the mind if we want to change this world. As I said earlier, if we're only seeing things from the historical, political, social point of view, we're missing this inner piece. you see. The inner peace. We have to understand both, certainly social, historical, economic, political understanding is very helpful because these are often the conditions that people grow up in and nurture them. But if we don't understand that the seeds are already in people's minds, in their mind states, there are reasons that certain people move in their life in this direction, and certain reason people move in their life in this direction. You know what I mean? We want to understand what's going on here. And so this is just one way. As I said in the beginning, it's very different than the way we mostly look at things. But it's like from the inside, what's going on with these people? So we understand, so we don't make it personal. So we think we just have to eliminate them when they're manifested, right? So the answer is what? If that's the way you see things, the answer is what? What? Yeah, kill them, jail them, build bigger walls, arm everybody, you know what I mean? It's like, and yet we see the more we do that, it doesn't change anything. So either we keep doing it on and on or we stop and we go, where are these people coming from, you see? Where's the hate coming from? Right, that again, he was a young man who shot up the store in Buffalo, right? He was also another young one. I mean, they don't come out of nowhere. He wasn't born with that mind state, but life nurtured something in him. And it may have grabbed onto this ideology or grabbed onto this issue, but underneath that, anger, hurt, rage. And that can be manipulated. But we got to see what's underneath if we want not to be just dealing from one incident to another, stumbling from one crisis to another. We got to stop. This is in our tradition. We stop and we look deeply. Like with ourselves, we stop. In our meditation, we stop. We stop the endless outflow of our life. We stop. We sit and we look. What's going on here? You think these young men ever do that? No, never. No. So that's why we do it. It's not to mean that we don't act, but we have to act from some level of understanding if we want things to change. Any other? We're just about out of time.
There is another one online,
Mm-hmm.
Chris Sidwell. He asks, if you know someone who is processed, or I think he means possessed, by a realm, how can you bring them out?
Yeah, so that's another Dharma talk. It's very interesting. In each of those realms, when they're representative in the wheel of life, in each of those realms, there's a Buddha. Right? In each of these realms, there's a Buddha who has a special, a special tool. Right? Yeah, but not easy. Right? Let's just get clear. Not easy. The more that someone is a mix, right, of the good and the bad and the light and the dark, and the more that someone has a little bit, right, of introspection. So let me give you a quick example because we need to stop. So I have a 10-year-old grandson. Yeah, kids go into these realms, right? So one of the things he likes to do when he's bored is hurt his sister. Not hurt her bad, give her pokes, give her this, tease her, do things, right? You see, and there's some other things that he does that are just him doing what he wants, right? Totally self-absorbed, totally self-centered. He's a kid, right? So how do I deal with them? See, one way is to, just give them timeouts and give them lectures and all that stuff, which if anybody's ever done that with a kid, it's very short-term benefit at all. You know what I talk to them about? I just simply say, Leo, let's turn this around. Do you like people to bug you and poke you? No. You know the things that make you annoyed? Do you like it when people do those annoying things just to annoy you? No. I go through the whole litany. I said, well, you see, Leo, that's what's going on here, you see. You need to understand that if you don't want somebody to do that to you, then maybe you better think about whether you have a right to do it to others, you see. Because if you have a right to do it to others, then they have a right to do it to you, right? So I'm trying to break into his self-centered world, a world that in that moment lacks any empathy for his sister, not by lecturing him or moralizing to him, but just by turning it around. Okay? So that's one way that we can help people who, have undeveloped mind like a child. Right? So for every person, how do you deal with somebody who's addicted? You just talk with them and ask them, when you step back from what you're doing, is this way of life really giving you happiness? Is satisfying your craving every 4 hours, really giving you a meaningful life? I mean, is it working? Is it working? You ask somebody whose whole life is getting, accumulating more money, more this, are you happy? I mean, I ask people that question all the time. Well, I hear that. Are you happy? Why are you doing all this? Now they're 60 years old. Why have you been doing all this? Well, I think if I get a certain level, certain amount of money, certain amount of esteem, certain amount of this, then what? I always say that, well, then what? Well, then I'll be happy. Oh, then you must be in bliss now because you just spent your whole life doing this. And they'll go, not really. And that's all I'll say. Trying to just get them to kind of look at, in a very mild way, just look at their life. Is it working? Ask questions. Don't lecture people. Ask them questions. Oh, I get it. Is it working? Is it making you happy? Is your heart more open? Are you more accepting? I don't know. You tell me. So that's kind of one way that I do it. And on that note, wish you all a happy holiday weekend. Thank you for coming, listening.